For months, Ethan stopped touching his wife after discovering a secret message on her phone. But when Lily finally revealed the painful truth she had hidden for him, his entire world shattered. Welcome to African Heartfelt Stories. If you love emotional and touching stories, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more amazing stories. Thank you for your support. Sit back, relax as we dive into the story. Rain tapped softly against the bedroom window as Ethan Carter sat quietly at the edge of the bed. The small lamp beside him gave the room a warm yellow light, but the warmth did not reach his heart. He stared at the dark sky outside without moving. Behind him, Lily folded clothes slowly into a basket. Every few seconds, she glanced at him, hoping he would say something first. Anything. But Ethan remained silent. The silence between them had become normal now. And that scared her more than shouting ever could. A year ago, this same room used to be filled with laughter. Ethan would sneak behind her while she folded clothes and wrap his arms around her waist. Sometimes he kissed her neck, just to make her laugh. Sometimes they stayed awake till midnight talking about dreams, children, and places they wanted to visit together. Back then, Lily used to fall asleep smiling. Now she fell asleep wondering if her husband still loved her. She carefully placed the last shirt into the basket before speaking softly. "Ethan." He blinked slowly. "Yes. Can I ask you something?" He gave a small nod but still did not turn around. Lily swallowed nervously. Her fingers tightened around the basket handle. "Why don't you touch me anymore?" The words finally escaped her trembling lips. Ethan's jaw tightened instantly. For a moment, the only sound in the room was the rain outside. Lily looked down at the floor, already regretting asking. But she could not hold it inside anymore. Not after months of pretending everything was fine. Ethan finally spoke quietly. "I'm tired." Lily closed her eyes painfully. That answer again. Always the same answer. Tired. Busy. Work stress. Headache. Excuses. But deep down, she knew something else was wrong. A wife always knows when her husband's heart begins to move away. She sat carefully on the bed beside him. "You've been tired for almost a year," she whispered. Ethan rubbed his face slowly. "Please, Lily. Not tonight." "Then when?" she asked softly, her voice beginning to shake. "Because every time I try to talk to you, you shut me out." Ethan stood up immediately and walked toward the window. Lily watched him quietly. He used to run toward her. Now he walked away from her. That hurt more than words. "I'm not shutting you out," Ethan said. Lily almost laughed at the lie. Not because it was funny, because it hurt too much. "You barely look at me anymore," she said quietly. "You come home late. You eat without talking. You sleep facing the wall. Even when I touch your hand, you pull away." Ethan remained silent. Lily's eyes slowly filled with tears. "What happened to us?" Still no answer. The silence in the room became heavy, painful, cold. Finally, Lily stood up. "If I did something wrong," she whispered, "please tell me." Ethan looked down at the floor. His chest tightened painfully. Because the truth was, he wanted to speak. He wanted to ask her 1,000 questions. But every time he remembered those messages, something inside him froze. 3 months earlier, Ethan had accidentally seen messages on Lily's phone while trying to check the time. At first, he had not meant to read anything. But one message caught his attention immediately. It was from Lily's younger sister, Ava. "Does Ethan know what you gave away for him?" Ethan's heart had stopped. Then Lily replied, "No, and he must never find out." Another message followed. "But that was your future, Lily." And her reply haunted Ethan every single night. "His family needed me more." Since that day, Ethan could no longer think clearly. What did she give away? Why hide it from him? Why did it feel like she had shared something important with someone else instead of him? The questions slowly poisoned his heart. Instead of asking her directly, he began pulling away little by little. And now he barely recognized himself anymore. Back in the bedroom, Lily quietly wiped her tears. "I miss my husband," she said softly. Those words hit Ethan deeply, because he missed himself too. but fear and confusion had already built a wall between them. Lily slowly picked up her pillow. "I'll sleep in the guest room tonight." Ethan turned quickly. "Lily." But she shook her head gently. "I'm tired too." Her voice broke slightly as she walked toward the door. Before leaving, she looked back at him one last time. "I just wish you trusted me enough to tell me why you stopped loving me." Then she left. The sound of the closing door felt louder than thunder. Ethan stood frozen in the room. His chest hurt badly. He looked at their wedding picture, sitting beside the lamp. The photo showed a different version of them. Smiling. Happy. In love. Ethan picked up the frame slowly. He remembered that day clearly. Lily dancing barefoot at the wedding reception. The way she cried during their vows. The way she held his hand tightly and whispered, "No matter what happens, we face life together." Ethan sat down heavily. Then guilt slowly began crawling into his chest. Because deep down, he knew he was destroying the very woman who once gave him peace. Meanwhile, Lily sat alone in the guest room, hugging her knees tightly. Tears rolled silently down her cheeks. She did not understand why the man who once loved her so deeply now looked at her like a stranger. And the worst part was, she still loved him enough to wait for him to come back. Lily wiped her tears with the sleeve of her sweater and slowly lay down on the small guest room bed. The room felt cold and unfamiliar. She stared at the ceiling for a long time, waiting, hoping she would hear footsteps outside the door, hoping Ethan would come after her like he used to whenever they fought. But the house remained silent. That silence hurt more than anger. Back in their bedroom, Ethan still sat on the edge of the bed, holding their wedding picture tightly in his hands. His mind would not rest. Every memory of Lily fought against the fear growing inside him. He remembered how she stayed awake all night when he had a fever, how she supported him when he lost his first job, how she smiled proudly even when they could only afford cheap dinners and second-hand furniture. Lily had always chosen him. Always. So why was he unable to trust her now? Ethan stood up suddenly and paced around the room. He was tired of living inside confusion, tired of acting cold, tired of hurting the woman he loved. Finally, he walked toward the guest room door. His hand rested on the handle for several seconds before he slowly opened it. Lily quickly sat up when she saw him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The tension between them filled the room. Ethan looked nervous for the first time in months. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. Lily swallowed painfully before nodding. Ethan entered slowly and sat at the edge of the small chair beside the bed. He looked down at his hands, then finally spoke. "I saw the messages on your phone." Lily's face immediately lost color. Her breathing became uneven. "What messages?" "The ones between you and Ava." Silence. Lily slowly closed her eyes. Now she understood everything. The distance, the coldness, the pain in Ethan's eyes. He had misunderstood. "Oh God," she whispered softly. Ethan looked at her carefully. "For months I've been trying to understand what you meant." Lily looked down. "You should have asked me." "I know," Ethan replied quietly. "But every time I wanted to, I got scared." "Scared of what?" "That maybe I already lost something important without knowing." Lily's eyes filled with tears again. "You really thought I betrayed you?" Ethan did not answer immediately. His silence was enough. Lily looked away painfully. "That's why you stopped touching me." Ethan nodded slowly. The sadness on Lily's face almost broke him completely. For several seconds, she could not speak. Then she finally whispered, "You really suffered all this time alone." Ethan rubbed his forehead tiredly. "So did you." The room became quiet again. This time the silence felt different. Not cold, just heavy with pain. Finally Ethan looked directly at her. "What did you give away, Lily?" She took a deep, shaky breath. Then she whispered the answer. "My bakery." Ethan frowned immediately. "What?" "The bakery," she repeated softly. "I sold it." Ethan stared at her in disbelief. Her bakery was not just a business. It was her dream. The small little shop she built with years of hard work. The place she loved more than anything. He remembered how excited she became whenever she talked about new cake ideas. He remembered her flour-covered cheeks and tired, but happy smile every evening. That bakery was part of her soul. "You sold it," he whispered again. Tears rolled down Lily's cheeks. "When your mother got sick last year, we didn't have enough money for the surgery." Ethan's chest tightened immediately. That period had been the hardest time of his life. His mother's condition became worse every week. Hospital bills kept rising. Debt kept growing. And no matter how hard he worked, it never felt enough. Lily continued softly. "You were already breaking under pressure. I saw it every day." Ethan lowered his eyes. He remembered crying secretly in the bathroom one night because he felt useless as a son. "I couldn't watch you lose your mother," Lily whispered. "So I sold the bakery." Ethan's breathing became heavier. "You gave up your dream." Lily gave a weak smile through tears. "A dream can be rebuilt. A life can't." Ethan felt something painful twist inside his chest. All these months, he believed she had hidden some terrible betrayal. Meanwhile, she had sacrificed everything to save his family. And instead of thanking her, he punished her. Ethan slowly covered his face with his hands. "Oh God." Lily watched him quietly. "I never wanted you to find out," she admitted softly. "Why?" "Because I know you." Her voice trembled. "You would blame yourself." Ethan looked at her with wet eyes. "You should have trusted me enough to tell me. I was trying to protect you. But you carried everything alone." Lily smiled sadly. "That's what love does sometimes." Ethan suddenly stood up and walked toward the window. He felt ashamed of himself. Ashamed for every cold response. Every ignored touch. Every lonely night he forced Lily to cry herself to sleep. Behind him, Lily quietly wiped her face again. "I missed you so much," she whispered. Those simple words shattered the last wall inside Ethan's heart. Slowly, he turned back toward her. For the first time in many months, he truly looked at his wife. Not with suspicion, not with fear, but with understanding. And what he saw broke him completely. Lily looked exhausted. Not physically, emotionally, like someone who spent too long carrying pain alone. Ethan walked toward the bed slowly. Then, with trembling hands, he sat beside her. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Lily looked at him silently. "I thought," Ethan's voice cracked painfully, "I thought you gave your heart away somewhere else." Fresh tears rolled down Lily's face. "My heart has always been yours." Ethan could no longer hold himself together. He pulled her gently into his arms. For 1 second, Lily froze in surprise, because it had been so long since he held her like this. Then she slowly broke down, crying against his chest. Months of pain poured out of her at once. Ethan held her tighter. And for the first time in nearly a year, neither of them pretended to be okay anymore. Lily cried softly against Ethan's chest while he held her tightly. Neither of them cared about the time. Neither of them wanted to move. It felt like two lost people finally finding each other again after months of silence. Ethan gently stroked her hair as guilt slowly filled his heart. Every tear Lily cried felt like a reminder of how badly he had failed her. Not because he stopped loving her, but because he stopped communicating. After a long while, Lily slowly pulled back and wiped her face. Her eyes were swollen and red. Ethan looked at her painfully. "I hurt you," he whispered. Lily gave a small, sad smile. "We both got hurt." Ethan shook his head immediately. "No, I should have trusted you." Lily looked down quietly. "And I should have told you the truth earlier." The room became silent again. But this silence no longer felt cold. For the first time in months, it felt honest. Ethan took a deep breath. "When you sold the bakery, why didn't you tell me before making that decision?" Lily hesitated. Then she answered softly. "Because I knew you would stop me." "You're right," Ethan admitted immediately. "I would have stopped you." She gave a weak smile. "That surgery saved your mother's life." Ethan lowered his head. He remembered the day the doctors told them his mother would survive. He remembered hugging Lily tightly outside the hospital while crying from relief. At that time, he thought a miracle had happened. Now he finally understood the price of that miracle. He looked at Lily again. "How did you even manage to sell it so quickly?" Lily sighed softly. There was a businessman interested in the property months earlier. I contacted him secretly. Ethan's chest tightened. You handled all that alone? She nodded slowly. I didn't want you to carry more pressure. Ethan leaned back heavily in the chair. That's the problem, Lily. She frowned slightly. What do you mean? You always carry everything alone. Lily looked surprised by his words. I was helping. I know, Ethan said gently. But love isn't supposed to feel like one person suffering quietly while the other stays blind. Lily stared at him silently. No one had ever said those words to her before. Growing up, she had always been the strong one in her family. The helper. The fixer. The one who sacrificed first. Even after marriage, she continued doing the same thing without realizing how much it was slowly breaking her inside. Ethan looked around the small guest room before speaking again. Can I ask you something honestly? Lily nodded. Since you sold the bakery, have you truly been happy? The question caught her off guard. She opened her mouth to answer quickly, but no words came out, because deep down, she already knew the truth. No, she had not been happy. She survived. She smiled. She acted strong. But a quiet sadness followed her every single day after losing the bakery, especially whenever she smelled fresh bread from another shop, or saw someone decorating cakes online. Sometimes she even dreamed about her old bakery at night, then woke up feeling empty. Tears slowly returned to her eyes. I tried to be okay, she whispered. Ethan's heart broke hearing that. Lily, I thought if your mother survived, then losing my dream would be worth it. It was worth something, Ethan said softly, but not your happiness. Lily looked at him quietly. For months, Ethan blamed himself for being distant. But now he realized something else. Lily had also been disappearing slowly, and he had failed to notice. Not because he did not love her, but because both of them became too focused on surviving problems instead of protecting each other emotionally. Ethan stood up slowly. Then he held out his hand toward her. Come with me. Lily looked confused. Where? Back to our room. She stared at his hand for a moment, then slowly placed hers into it. Ethan gently helped her up. The moment their hands touched, something warm returned between them again. Something both of them missed deeply. As they walked back into their bedroom together, Lily noticed Ethan looking at their wedding picture on the table again. He picked it up quietly. We looked so happy, he whispered. We were, Lily replied softly. Ethan turned toward her. No, he said gently. We still can be. Lily's eyes filled with emotion. For the first time in a long while, she believed him. That night, they lay beside each other silently. Not touching yet. Not because love was gone, but because healing takes time. Still, the distance between them felt smaller now. At some point during the night, Lily slowly moved closer unconsciously in her sleep. And for the first time in months, Ethan did not pull away. Instead, he wrapped his arm around her gently. The next morning, sunlight entered softly through the curtains. Lily woke up first. For a few seconds, she stayed still in surprise. Ethan's arm was around her waist. Just like before, her heart tightened emotionally. Carefully, she turned slightly toward him. He was still asleep. For the first time in many months, his face looked peaceful. Not tense. Not distant. Just tired. Lily quietly stared at him. She realized something important in that moment. Ethan never stopped loving her. He was simply drowning in fear, guilt, and misunderstanding. And she had been drowning in silent sacrifice. Both of them were hurting while trying to protect each other. When Ethan slowly opened his eyes, he found Lily already looking at him. For a second, neither spoke. Then Lily gave him a small, shy smile. Good morning. Ethan smiled softly back. It was a simple moment, but it felt like the beginning of something healing, something returning, something worth fighting for again. Ethan continued looking at Lily quietly after her soft good morning. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Lily suddenly laughed a little. Ethan blinked in surprise. What? You're staring at me like you haven't seen me in years. Ethan smiled weakly. That's because I finally am. Lily's cheeks turned slightly red. It was such a small moment, but it warmed the cold space that had lived between them for months. Ethan slowly removed his arm from around her and sat up carefully. "I should make breakfast," he said. Lily raised an eyebrow immediately. "You?" "Yes, me. You once burned instant noodles." Ethan placed a hand on his chest dramatically. "That happened one time." "3 times, Lily corrected. He laughed softly for the first time in months. And hearing that sound again made Lily's heart ache emotionally. She missed this version of him. The gentle version. The peaceful version. The man she married. A few minutes later, Lily entered the kitchen and froze at the sight in front of her. Ethan stood there struggling with bread in the toaster while smoke slowly rose into the air. Lily burst into laughter immediately. Ethan turned around defensively. "It's the toaster's fault. You nearly started a fire before breakfast." "I was trying to be romantic." She continued laughing as she walked toward him. And for the first time in a very long time, the house no longer felt heavy. It felt alive again. Later that afternoon, Ethan visited his mother after work. Mrs. Carter sat comfortably on the couch, knitting while watching television. The moment she saw Ethan's face, she frowned slightly. "You look emotional," she said carefully. Ethan sat beside her quietly. "Mom." She lowered the knitting slowly. "What happened?" Ethan looked down at his hands, then finally told her everything. The messages, the misunderstanding, the bakery, the sacrifice Lily made. Mrs. Carter covered her mouth in shock. "She sold her bakery for me?" Ethan nodded slowly. Tears immediately filled his mother's eyes. "Oh my God." Ethan leaned back tiredly. "And instead of appreciating her, I pushed her away for months." His mother looked deeply hurt. "That girl loves this family more than herself." Ethan nodded painfully. "I know." Mrs. Carter grabbed his hand firmly. "Then stop punishing yourself and love your wife properly before guilt destroys both of you." Those words stayed in Ethan's mind the entire drive home. That evening, he found Lily in the kitchen baking small cupcakes for a neighbor's birthday order. Soft music played quietly from her phone. Ethan stood at the doorway watching her silently. And suddenly he noticed something painful. Lily looked happiest while baking. Her movements became lighter. Her eyes became brighter. Even her smile looked more natural. It made him realize how much of herself she buried after selling the bakery. Lily noticed him staring. "What?" Ethan walked closer slowly. "You miss it, don't you?" She stopped decorating the cupcake. For a second, her expression fell slightly. Then she forced a small smile. "Sometimes. Only sometimes." Lily looked down quietly. "I try not to think about it too much." Ethan's chest tightened again. That answer hurt him more than tears, because it sounded like someone teaching themselves not to dream anymore. He gently picked up one of the cupcakes and tasted it. His eyes widened immediately. "This is amazing." Lily laughed softly. "You've eaten my cupcakes for years." "Yeah, but now I'm tasting them properly." She looked at him carefully after hearing that sentence. Ethan met her eyes. "I haven't been paying attention to the right things lately." Lily's smile slowly faded into emotion. For months, she felt invisible beside him. Now she could finally feel him seeing her again. That night, after dinner, Ethan sat alone in the living room while Lily showered upstairs. His eyes slowly moved around the quiet house, then toward the kitchen, then toward the small notebook sitting on the counter. He recognized it immediately. Lily's recipe notebook. He walked over and opened it carefully. Inside were hundreds of handwritten recipes. Chocolate cakes, cinnamon rolls, cookies, birthday designs. Tiny notes filled the pages. Add extra vanilla. Kids love this flavor. Practice this design again. Some pages even had little smiley faces beside successful recipes. Ethan slowly sat down while flipping through the notebook. And then he saw something that broke his heart completely. A page near the back read, "Maybe one day I'll open another bakery again." But the sentence had been crossed out heavily with pen. Ethan stared at the page silently for a long time. Then he closed the notebook slowly. At that moment, something changed inside him. For months, he focused only on his own pain. But now he clearly saw Lily's hidden pain too. And he finally understood something important. Loving someone is not only appreciating their sacrifices. It is also protecting the parts of them that make them feel alive. Later that night, Lily came downstairs wearing comfortable pajamas. She noticed Ethan unusually quiet again. Her heart became nervous instantly. "Are you okay?" she asked carefully. Ethan looked up at her, then slowly smiled. "Yes." She sat beside him. "You sure?" Ethan nodded gently. Then he reached over and held her hand. A simple touch. But it made Lily emotional immediately. Because months ago, she feared she would never feel his warmth again. Ethan squeezed her fingers softly. "Lily." "Yes." "One day." He paused briefly. "I'm going to fix this." She frowned slightly. "Fix what?" He looked at her with deep emotion in his eyes. "The part of you that stopped dreaming." Lily stared at him silently. She did not fully understand his words yet. But somehow, for the first time in a long while, hope quietly returned to her heart. The following days became softer between them. Not perfect. Healing never happens in one night. But little by little, the coldness inside their home disappeared. Ethan started coming home earlier from work. Sometimes he helped Lily package cupcake orders at the dining table. Sometimes he simply sat nearby watching her bake while pretending to scroll through his phone. But Lily noticed the truth. He was watching her smile, watching her become herself again. One evening, Lily walked into the living room carrying fresh cookies. She stopped when she saw Ethan quickly closing his laptop. Her eyebrows lifted suspiciously. "What are you hiding?" "Nothing." That was the face of a guilty man. Ethan laughed nervously. "I don't know what you're talking about." Lily narrowed her eyes playfully. "You're acting strange lately." "I'm always strange." "That's true," she admitted. Both of them laughed softly. And once again, the house felt warm. But behind those quiet moments, Ethan was working on something secretly. Every night after Lily slept, he stayed awake researching business spaces online. Small bakery locations, affordable equipment, second-hand ovens. He even took extra freelance design jobs at night to save more money. The exhaustion slowly returned to his face, but this time it came from purpose instead of pain. One afternoon, Daniel visited Ethan during lunch break at work. "You look terrible again," Daniel joked while sitting across from him. Ethan smiled tiredly. "I'm working on something." Daniel leaned forward curiously. "You finally joining the mafia?" Ethan laughed. "No." "Then what?" Ethan hesitated for a second before answering quietly. "I'm trying to bring my wife back to life." Daniel frowned in confusion. Ethan then explained everything. The misunderstanding, the bakery, the guilt he carried. Daniel became quiet after hearing it all. Then he shook his head slowly. "Man, Lily really loves you." Ethan looked down. "I know. And you love her too." "I do." "Then stop wasting time feeling guilty and do something meaningful." Those words pushed Ethan even harder. For the next several weeks, he worked quietly behind the scenes. He contacted Lily's old bakery customers secretly. Many of them still remembered her warmly. One woman even smiled emotionally on the phone. "Lily's strawberry cake was the best cake my daughter ever had." Another customer said, "We were heartbroken when her bakery closed." Hearing those words made Ethan even more determined. Meanwhile, Lily continued baking small orders from home. Word slowly spread around town. Neighbors recommended her desserts online. Children loved her cupcakes. People even began placing weekend orders in advance. One evening, Ethan came home and found Lily dancing softly in the kitchen while decorating a cake. He froze at the doorway watching her. The music playing quietly. The flower on her cheek. The smile on her face. It reminded him of the woman he fell in love with years ago. Lily noticed him and laughed shyly. "What?" Ethan walked toward her slowly. "You look happy." She smiled gently. "I forgot how much I missed this." Ethan looked at her carefully. "No," he corrected softly. "You were trying not to miss it." Her smile slowly faded. Because he was right. She spent so long burying her dream that she almost convinced herself she no longer wanted it. That night, after Lily fell asleep, Ethan quietly opened a folder hidden inside his desk. Inside were papers, business documents, rental agreements, equipment receipts, and finally, a photo of a small empty bakery space downtown. Ethan stared at the picture for a long time before smiling softly. "Almost done," he whispered. 2 weeks later, Ethan woke Lily up early on Saturday morning. She groaned sleepily. "Why are you smiling like that? Get dressed." "Why?" "It's a surprise." Lily narrowed her eyes suspiciously. "I don't trust that smile. You married this smile. Worst decision of my life." Ethan laughed loudly. 30 minutes later, Lily sat inside the car while Ethan drove through town. "Where are we going?" she kept asking. "You'll see." Eventually, the car stopped. Ethan stepped out first before walking around to her side. Then, to Lily's surprise, he gently tied a soft cloth over her eyes. She laughed immediately. "Ethan, trust me. You sound dangerous. I'm romantic. You nearly burned the kitchen last week. That happened once. 4 times." Ethan smiled as he guided her carefully forward. Finally, they stopped walking. Lily heard soft sounds around her. People talking. A door opening. Then silence. Ethan stood behind her quietly. His hands trembled slightly from nervousness. "Okay," he whispered softly. He slowly removed the blindfold. Lily blinked several times, then froze completely. In front of her stood a beautiful bakery. Warm lights glowed through the windows. Fresh flowers decorated the entrance. And above the door was a sign written in elegant gold letters. "Lily's Oven." Her breathing stopped. Her hands slowly covered her mouth. "No." Tears instantly filled her eyes. She turned toward Ethan in complete shock. "What is this?" Ethan smiled nervously. "Your dream." Lily stared at him speechlessly. "I used my savings, the freelance jobs, and sold my motorcycle." Tears rolled freely down her cheeks now. "You did this for me?" Ethan stepped closer slowly. "No," he whispered emotionally. "For us." Lily began crying harder. Ethan gently took her hand and led her inside. The moment she entered, she completely broke down emotionally. Everything inside looked perfect. The ovens, the shelves, the glass displays. Even her old recipe board hung proudly on the wall. Ethan smiled softly. "I contacted some of your old customers too." Lily looked at him with trembling lips. "You remembered all this?" "I remembered you." That sentence shattered her completely. Lily threw her arms around him tightly and cried against his chest. Ethan held her close. And this time, neither of them cried from pain. They cried from love, from healing, from finally understanding each other again. After a while, Lily pulled back slightly and looked around the bakery again. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Ethan smiled. "You know what I realized?" "What?" "That I spent months thinking you gave something away from me." He gently wiped tears from her cheeks. "But the truth is, you gave everything to protect the people you love." Lily looked at him emotionally. "And I almost lost you because I stopped communicating instead of asking questions." She slowly held his face in her hands. "We both made mistakes." Ethan nodded softly. "But we found our way back." At that moment, Mrs. Carter suddenly walked out from the back room smiling warmly. "Surprise." Lily gasped loudly. "Mom." Mrs. Carter hugged her tightly with tears in her eyes. "You sacrificed your dream for my life," she whispered emotionally. "Now let this family help rebuild it." Lily cried again immediately. Soon Daniel and a few close friends walked inside too, clapping happily. The bakery filled with laughter, warmth, and love. And for the first time in a very long time, Lily no longer felt like the woman who lost her dream. She felt seen, valued, loved. Later that night, after everyone left, Ethan and Lily stood alone outside the bakery under the soft city lights. Lily rested her head gently against his shoulder. "You know," she whispered softly. "What?" "When I asked why you stopped touching me." Ethan looked down quietly. "I was afraid you stopped loving me." He kissed her forehead gently. "I never stopped loving you." "Then why did it hurt so much?" Ethan smiled sadly. "Because sometimes love without communication becomes fear." Lily slowly nodded. That was true. They almost lost each other not because love disappeared, but because silence grew louder than honesty. Ethan gently lifted her chin. "From now on, no more silent suffering." Lily smiled softly through tears. Together. Together. Then under the warm glow of the bakery lights, Ethan kissed his wife deeply and sincerely. Not out of guilt, not out of obligation, but because after all the pain, misunderstanding, sacrifice, and healing, they had finally learned the most important truth about love. Real love is not about perfection. It is about choosing each other again and again, even after the hurt. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you find this story worth watching. If you do, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful story, like, comment, and share this video to your friends and loved ones. Your support and engagement encourage me to post more videos. Thanks for watching.